flash photography, videotaping, as well as food and drink are prohibited in the auditorium. If a young child becomes disruptive, we ask that you please take your child to the huddle. Now sit back and enjoy St. Paul's High School Drama's production of Our Town.
This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder, produced by St. Helens High School, and directed by Ron Barnett. In it you will see Angelina Hansman, Josh Farrell, Megan Malone, Taylor Berwick, Cody Kemp, William Aguilar, and many others. The town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just above the Massachusetts line. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes, longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7, 1901. The time is just before dawn. There are some streaks of light beginning to show over in the east there. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minutes before it's about to go, doesn't it? Well, it's time to show you how our town lies. Back there is Main Street. Way over there is the railway station. Tracks go that way. Across the tracks is Polish Town and some Canuck families. Over there is the Congregational Church. Across the street's the Presbyterian. Methodist and Unitarian are over there. The Catholic Church is over in the hollow by the river, and the Baptist Church is across the tracks. Over here is the town hall and post office combined. Jail's in the basement. Brian once made a speech from these very steps here. Along there is a row of stores, hitching posts and horse blocks in the front. The first automobile is going to come around in about 5 years, belong to Banker Cartwright, our richest citizen, lives in the big White House up on the hill. Over there are the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to stop into one of those stores at least once a day. Public school's over yonder, high school's farther over. 8:45 mornings, noon times, and 3 o'clock afternoons. The whole town can hear screaming and yelling from one of those two schoolyards. And this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is the back door. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Bees, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and a whole lot of burlap. Back in those days, the paper came twice a week. And here's Editor Webb's house. And there's Mrs. Webb's garden, same as Mrs. Gibbs, only a whole lot of sunflowers too. And right here is a big butternut tree. It's a nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever comes out of it, so far as we know. But the oldest tombstones up in the cemetery up there say 1670 to 1680. Well, there are some lights on, and it is dawn. There's Shorty Hawkins down at the depot, flagging the 545 for Boston, and a cottage across the tracks where Polish mothers just had twins, and in the Joe Crowell household where Joe Crowell Jr. is getting up to deliver the paper. Doc Gibbs is coming down Main Street right now, getting back in that baby case. And there's Mrs. Gibbs, come downstairs to make breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930, but Mrs. Gibbs died before him, a long time ago in fact. She went out to visit her daughter Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio. She died there, pneumonia, but her body was brought back here. She's up in the cemetery there now, with a whole lot of Gibbses and Hersheys. She was Julia Hershey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Here's Mrs. Webb coming downstairs to make breakfast. And there's Doc Gibbs, got that call at 1:30 this morning. And there's Joe Farwell, delivering the paper.
Morning, Doc Gibbs.
Morning, Joe.
Someone have been sick off?
Nah, just a couple of twins born over in Polish Town.
Would you like a paper now, sir?
Yes, thank you. Anything important happened in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher, Miss Foster, is getting married to a fellow down in Concord.
Well, I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it's none of my business, but I feel a person who starts off being a school teacher on Salem.
How's your knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. It never bothers me at all. But like you said, it always tells me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you? Never rain?
No, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
You ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
Want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell, over there. He was a bright kid. Graduated head of our class in the high school here. So he got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech. Graduated head of his class there, too. It was all wrote up in the Boston paper at the time. Gonna be a great engineer, Joe was, but then the war broke out, and he died in France. All that education for nothing.
Gee up, Betsy. What's the matter with you today?
There's Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
Nah, just a couple of twins born over Mrs. Grassi.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Gonna rain, Howie?
No. Fine day. I'll burn through. Whoa, Bessie.
Well, hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the roof ever since the Lockhart's quit taking a quart of milk. So she keeps wanting to leave one just the same. Keeps scolding me with entire trick.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Yes, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was. Doc,
Howie?
Children, time to get up.
come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You'll be able to get a couple hours sleep this morning, won't you?
Not sure. Miss Wentworth's coming down the levee. Suppose I know what it's about, too. Stomach ain't what it used to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish I could get you to go away someplace and take a real rest. I think it would do you some good. Emily, time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock. George, Rebecca, you'll be late for school. George!
George, look sharp.
Yes, Bob.
Did you hear your mother calling you? I suppose I'll go upstairs and catch one of witness.
Children, you'll be late for school. Wally, you wash yourself up good or I'll come up and do it myself. Mom, what dress shall I wear? Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and needs his rest. I washed mine that blue given for you special.
Ma, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George slipped up at me.
I'll come up and slap the both of you, that's what I'll do. There's a factory on it now. You hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwrights on it and it run with horses.
No, children, I won't have it. Breakfast is important as any other meal, and I won't have you gobbling it like wolves. It'll stunt your growth. That's a fact. Put away your book, Wally.
Oh, Ma! By 10 o'clock I have to know everything about Canada.
You know the rules that I do. No books at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm me too, when I'm looking at my stamp collection.
I'll speak to your father about it he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy your age. I declare, I don't know how you spend it all.
Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry fox face, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes out with so much money. She's got more than $1.
I get it. We're on the wall.
Well, dear, I think it's good to spend some every now and then.
Mama, you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Mom, I gotta go.
Oh, come on, let me help you with the dishes. Walk fast.
I gotta go.
Hold your hands, Wally. Stand up straight. I have to go.
Ladies first.
Have a good day.
Bye, Mom.
Goodbye.
Give Miss Foster my best congratulations. Can you do that?
Yes, Mom.
You'll draw my hand. Pick up your feet.
I'm so close. I don't know.
Here, tick, tick, tick. No, go away, you. Here, tick, tick, tick. What's the matter with you? Fight, fight, fight. That's all you do. You don't belong to me. Where did you come from? Oh, don't be so scared. No one's gonna hurt you. Good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. Told Charles I wouldn't be going to choir practice. Wouldn't be any use.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but I can't seem to stay on key. While I rest myself, I thought I'd string some beans for the winter.
Beans would be good this year. Let me help you.
I decided to put up 40 quarts to kill me. Children say they hate them, but I noticed they can put them down during the winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something. Because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Here, give me some more of those beans. Myrtle, did one of those secondhand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First, I thought he was a patient wanting to see Dr. Gibbs. And he wormed his way into my parlor, and Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did that old thing. Why, it's so big I didn't know where I was going to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
You're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know. $350 would come over you.
Well, if I could get the doctor to take it and go on a real trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. Oh, sounds crazy, I suppose, but for years I've been promising myself that if I ever got the chance.
How does the doctor feel about it?
Well, I beat about the bush a little and said that if I ever got a legacy, that's the way I put it, I'd make him take me someplace.
Well, what did he say?
You know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he says, might make him discontented with Robert's Corner to have traced about Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years he goes to see the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just denied his way. Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's a good mind to move over from Napoleon and go to the Civil War, but with Dr. Gibbs being the greatest expert on Civil War, it just makes him despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as that when he's at Antietam or Gettysburg. Myrtle, the times I've walked over those hills, passing every bush, pacing all out like we were going to buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man's serious about buying it, Julie Gibbs, you sell it. Then you'll see Paris, France all right. Just throw some hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only, it seems to me that once before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't speak in English and they don't even want to. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to skip a few hours, but first we want to learn a few more things about the town. So, I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details of our past year. Is Professor Willard here? Oh, here. May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? A few brief notes. Thank you, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granites of the Appalachian Range. That's some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that. A shelf of Devonian basalt crosses it with vestiges of Mesozoic shale and some sandstone outcroppings. But it's all a little bit more recent. 200, 300 million years old. Let's see. Some highly interesting fossils have been found. I may say, unique fossils. 2 miles out of town in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. They can be seen at the museum in our university at any time. Any reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes?
afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history of man here.
Yes, anthropological. Early Amerindian stock, Cotaути tribes. No, it is from before the 10th century, sir. No, entirely disappeared. Possible traces of crude fragments. Migration towards the end of the 17th century of English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock, for the most part. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean...
And the population, Professor.
Within town limits, 2,640.
Just a minute.
Oh, indeed. The population at the moment, 2,642. The Polkwood district brings in 507 more, making a grand total of 3,149. Mortality and birth rates, constant. By McPherson's gauge, 6.032.
Thank you very much, Professor. We're very much obliged to you, I'm sure.
Not at all, ma'am, not at all.
Well, thank you again, and right this way. Now for the political and social report. Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb?
He'll be here in a minute. He just cut his hand while eating an apple.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Webb.
Charles, everyone's waiting.
Mr. Webb is publisher and editor of the Grover's Corner Sentinel. That's our local paper.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run by a board of selectmen. Men vote at age 21, women vote indirect. Politically, we're 85% Republicans, 16% Democrats, and 4% Socialists. The rest, indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestants, 12% Catholics, and the rest, indifferent.
Have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town, if you ask me. Probably better behaved than most, probably a little bit duller. The kids like it enough. I mean, 90% of them make their home here even when they've been off to college.
Wow. Well, does the audience have any questions for Mr. Webb?
Mrs. Webb, is there much drinking in Roman's Corners?
I don't know what you say much. I mean, the farmhands meet down in Greeno's stable and they holler some and, well, we have one or two town drunks. But they always be having remorses every time an Angelus comes to town. And other than that, there isn't much. I mean, we have alcohol in our medicine cabinet. Right good for a snake bite, always was.
Is there no one in town aware of the...
Can you stand up, please, so we can hear you better? What were you saying?
Is there no one in town aware of political injustice and industrial inequality?
Sure. Well, I mean, we're always talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't we do something about it?
Well, it isn't that easy. I mean, we're always looking for ways for the quarrelsome to rise to the top and the lazy to fall to the bottom. We help who needs help, and those who don't, we don't.
Any other questions?
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or a little beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, I'm sorry to say there's not much, but come to think of it, there's some girls playing piano at the high school commencement, but they're not very happy about it. Other than that, we do have beauties of a kind here. I mean, we have the sun coming up over the mountains, we have the birds, and we have the seasons. Oh, we notice them. But other than that, there ain't much. I mean, we have Robinson Crusoe, the Bible, Handel's Largo, Whistler's Mother. But other than that, there isn't much.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Webb. Now we'll go back to the town. It's early afternoon. All 2,642 have had their dinners and their dishes have been washed. There is an early afternoon calm in our town, a buzzing and a humming from the schoolyard. Not very busy on Main Street. All the horses are sleeping at their hitching posts. You all know how that is. And Doc is in his office tapping people and making them say aw. And there's Mr. Webb cutting his lawn. 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. No, sir, it's later than I thought. There are the kids who come from school already.
I can't, Lois. I've
me to stand up straight and next when you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I've never gotten such a kiss from such a lovely lady before. Excuse me, Miss Morris.
Go out and play in the fields, young man. You got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awfully sorry, Miss Morris. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class today.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine. But at the last minute, Mrs. Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase. I don't know how long time both of them.
Gee, it's funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head notes when you're doing homework over in your room.
What, can you?
Well, you certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you sit still for so long. I guess you just like school.
I feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it really. It passes the time.
Yeah, Emily, what do you say? We gotta work out some kind of telegraph from your room to mine, and every once in a while you could give me some sort of hint on one of those algebra problems. Not the answers, of course, not that, just some sort of hint.
Oh, I think hints are allowed. So, if you get stuck, George, you whistle me, and I'll give you some hints.
You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figured this is when a person's born.
Yeah, well, you see, I want to be a farmer, and my Uncle Luke says that whenever I feel like I can go over and work on his, and if I'm any good, I can just gradually, have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah, well, I better be getting out for the day. Thanks for the talk, Emily. Hello, Mrs. Love.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George. Emily, come help me string some beans for the winter. George Gibbs had a mighty conversation now, didn't he? Why he's growing up. How old is he?
I don't know.
Let's see. He must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today and that was very good.
You must have recited to your father at supper. What was it about?
Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off of school. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try to get them bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course.
Mama, am I good looking?
Of course you are. All my children got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Oh, Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already answered you, yes. You have a nice, young, pretty face. I've never heard such foolishness.
Oh, Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was, if I do say it myself. I was the prettiest girl in town along with Mamie Cartwright.
Well, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody? To get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now stop it. Come along and take that bowl with you.
Oh, Mama, there's no hope at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Thank you, Emily. Now, we'll have to interrupt again here. I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people 1,000 years from now to dig up. Of course, they've put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. But we're awfully interested in this because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all that reading matter in a glue, a silicate glue, that'll make it keep for 1,000, maybe even 2,000 years. We're going to put in a copy of the Bible and the Constitution of the United States and some of William Shakespeare's plays. So what do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, and all we really know about them are the names of the kings and some wheat contracts and some contracts for the sale of slaves. Yet every night, those families, they all sat down to supper, and the father came home from work, and the smoke went up the chimney, same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life is what we can piece together from the joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So, I'm going to have a copy of this play put into the cornerstone so that from now will know a few simple facts about us. More than the Treaty of Versailles or the Limburg Light. So, people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, in our marrying, in our living, and in our dying. Well, a good deal of time's gone by. You can hear the choir practicing in the congregational church. The children are doing their schoolwork, and the day's running down like a tired clock.
Now, look here, everyone. Music came into the world to give pleasure, not whatever that was. I'm going to try again. Acapella this time. You really have to listen to the key. Second verse. Ready? Softer. 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 Get it out of your heads that music's only good when it's loud. If you leave the loudness for the Methodists, you could beat them even if you wanted to. Now, again, softer tenors. Third verse.
Hello. Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Why aren't George? It's you.
I don't see it. Can you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. Your dance is in yards.
In yards? How do you mean?
In square yards.
Where yards?
Yes, George. Don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards with wallpaper.
Wallpaper. Okay, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. Mike, isn't the moonlight terrible? And that choir practice going on? I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Contra. Hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I better go back and try to work.
Good night, Emily, and thanks.
Good night, George.
Now, before I forget, how many of you will be able to come in Tuesday afternoon and sing at Fred Hershey's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. We'll do this the same music we did for Jane Crowbridge's wedding last month. Now we'll do Art Thou Weary, Art Thou Languid. It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk. Ready?
George, could you come down a minute?
Yes, Bob.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only give you a minute. George, how old are you?
I'm 60, almost 70.
And what do you plan to do after school?
Why, you know, Bob. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Farm.
Oh, you'll be willing, will you, to Wake up early in the morning, milk and feed the stock, hoe, hay all day?
Sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, when I was in the office the other day, I heard a funny sound. And what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There, you see? Your mother. Waking up early, cooking meals all day long, sewing and ironing, but still, she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easy to do it herself. But George, you eat her meals, and you put on her clothes that she keeps nice for you, and you run off and play baseball like she's some hired girl we keep around the house. We don't like her. I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money, 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because, well, that's a present you give to her. But because you're getting older, and I suppose there are many things you might find you want to do.
Thanks, Pa.
Tomorrow's your payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will like to think she have to have some more, too. Wonder what could have happened to your mother. Choir practice is not usually this late.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she bothers with that old choir anyway. She hasn't any more voice than an old crow. Traipsing around the streets this hour of the night, it's shameful. That's what it is. About time you retired, don't you think, son?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Good day, Mr. Foster.
I'll tell Mr. Wilder. I know him. Have a nice night.
My plate.
Real nice picture.
Wasn't it? Myrtle Web. Look at that moon, William. Say the weather for sure.
Naturally. I didn't want to say a word about it in front of those others. But now we're alone. Really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
No, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him in his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have. It doesn't happen nearly so often. My, I'd hate to go to bed on a night like this. I better hurry. Children will be up until all hours. Good night, Luella.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
It's as bright as day out. I can see Mr. Sellum scowling out the window right now. You think we'd been to a dance, ladies and men, but carry on.
Well, we had a real nice time.
Well, you're late enough.
Why, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
We stopped at the corner to gossip with a lot of pennies.
Now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Isn't that wonderful? What'd you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read, as usual. What were you girls gossiping about anyway?
Well, believe me, Frank, there is something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson. Far gone, was he?
Worst I've ever seen him. How about him, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
Well, I suppose I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anyone else in this town. Some people just aren't fit for small city life. I don't know how that'll end you with it, but the best thing we can do is just leave it alone. Come on, get inside.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
Well, what are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make sure you get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on
Now,
it.
Julia, there's no point going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Come on, Julia, get inside. Next thing you know, you'll catch a cold. I gave Georgia a piece of my mind, right? You'll have your wood chopped. For a while, anyway. No need to do that. Going upstairs.
Seems like there's so many things to pick up. You know, Frank, Miss Fairchild locks her door every night. All those people up that part of town do.
They're all getting citified. That's the trouble with them. They ain't got nothing fit to steal and everybody knows it.
Rebecca, get down. There's only room for one at this window. You're always spoiling everything.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? Do you? I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting near, the people who sit up all night with the telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell everybody, and it'd be in all the newspapers.
George, do you think the moon shining on South America, Canada, and not the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. Most everybody's asleep. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. And there's Mr. Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Good evening, Bill. Quite a mood.
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Well, Simon Stimson was rolling around a bit. Saw his wife moving out to go find him. There he is now.
Simon. How's things be settled down tonight? Maybe we should do the same. Hey, Simon. Town settled down. No more ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
He's seen a pick of trouble. Oh, Bill. If you see my boy smoking cigarettes, give him a order. He looks up to you, Bill.
I don't think the boy smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. These places, not more than 2 or 3 years.
That's good. Who's up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, Papa, it's me.
Why are you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell must gives heliotropes. Can you smell it?
Yeah. Any troubles on your mind, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, enjoy yourself. Don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
I never told you about the letter that Jane Crowfoot got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and the address went like this. It said, Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
Well, what's so interesting about that?
Wait, it's not finished! United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Well, what do you know?
And the poster brought it just the same.
What do you know?
That's all the first act, folks. Enjoy your intermission. Years have gone by. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountain a little bit, and rain has brought down some dirt. Babies that weren't even born before began speaking regular sentences, and people that thought that they were right young and spry have found that they can't down the flight of stairs like they used to. All that can happen in 1,000 days. We've seen nature pushing and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain got bit away a few fractions of an inch, and millions of gallons went by the mill, and here and there a new home's gone up under a new roof. Most everybody in the world gets married, you know what I mean? In fact, most people climb into their graves married. So, as I said, it's 3 years later. It's 1904, June 7th, just after high school commencement. That's when most of our young people spring up and get married. Seems as though once they've passed their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, they find themselves fit to be married. It's early morning, only this time it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden and Mrs. Webb's here, drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines, drenched. All yesterday over on Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. It may begin again any minute. And there's the 5:45 for Boston. And here are Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb coming down to make breakfast, just as if it were any ordinary morning. I don't have to point out to the women in my audience that both of these women, they cook 3 meals a day, one of them for 20 years, the other for 40, and no summer vacation. They cooked, cleaned the house, washed, and never a nervous breakdown. It's like one of those European fellas said, got to love life to have life, and you've got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle. Here's Howie Newsom delivering the milk, and there's Cy Crowell delivering the paper like his brother before him.
Yep, that's it.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Pat. Anything in the papers out to know today?
Nothing much, except for reading about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners has ever had. George Gibbs.
Reckon he is?
He can hit and run bases, too.
Yep, lifetime ball player. Whoa, Betsy. Guess I can stop and have a talk if I'm mind to.
I don't feel like you give up a thing like that just to get married. Would you, Howie?
No, sorry. Can't tell. Never had an account that way. You're up early, Bill.
Seeing if there's anything I could do to prevent a flood. The river's been rising all night.
Sorry, Carl here's all worked up about George Gibbs returning from baseball.
Yes, sir, that's how it goes. Back at the north side, made a player, even George Gibbs can impress him. Named by, Hank Todd. 99 ball player. Went out to Maine and Parsons. How's the weather look, Howie?
Hey, Pat. Think maybe it'll clear up.
Good morning, Howie. You think it's going to rain again?
Morning, Mr. Gibbs. Well, it rained so heavily last night. I think maybe it'll clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
Well, I'm going to have a house full of relations, Howie. It looks to me like I'll need 3 milk and 2 cream.
My wife says to tell you that's how both of them will be very happy together, Mr. Gibbs. Really well.
Thanks, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets there to the wedding.
She'll be there. She or she can.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I think I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
Yes, I'm in the 2 cream.
Well, let's start raining again, Mr. Newsom.
Well, just saying that Mrs. Gibbs is how hopefully it'll clear up today. And Mrs. Newsom told me to tell you it's how we both hope we'll be very happy together. So there we go.
Thank you, and thank Mrs. Newsom, and we plan on seeing you at the wedding.
Certainly. Well, Mrs. Webb. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Betsy.
Well, Mom, the time's come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
Room's upstairs shaving, only there's not an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then I hear him say, I do, to the mirror. But it doesn't sound convincing to me.
I declare, Frank, I don't know what's going to become of him. I've arranged his clothes and seen to his warm things on. Frank, you're too young, and we don't think of such things. He'll catch his death of cold within a week.
I always remember our wedding morning, Julia.
Oh, don't start that, Frank Gibbs.
He was the scariest young fellow in the state of New Hampshire. Thought I'd make a mistake for sure. Sally coming down the aisle, thought you were the prettiest girl I ever saw. Trouble was, I ain't never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a total stranger.
And how do you think I felt? Weddings are perfectly awful things. Farces, that's what they are. Here, I made you something.
Why, Julia Hershey, French toast?
It ain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of hours struck off.
Yes, I get a start every time I think about George going out to become a family man, that great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so frightening as a son. The relationship between a father and son is the darndest,
Well,
oddest...
mothers and daughters no picnic, let me tell you.
They'll have their troubles, I suppose. That's none of our business. Everybody has the right to their own troubles.
Yes, people are meant to go through life 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
Julia, do you know what the one thing was I was most afraid of when I first married you?
I'll go along with you.
I was afraid we wouldn't have much room for conversation. Or a few weeks anyway. Thought we'd go off, eat our meals in total silence. That's a fact. Well, it's been 20 years without any notice from parents, fellas.
Well, good weather, bad weather, pay for your choice, but I always find something to say. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
Nah, just about the only time of year she isn't bothering everybody else with their own business. She's upstairs in her room. I get the feeling she's crying.
For Lord's sake, this has got to stop. Rebecca, come and eat your breakfast.
Good morning, everyone. Only 5 more hours to live.
George, where do you think you're going?
I'm just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
George, you put on your overshoes. It's raining torrents outside. You don't go out of this house without you're prepared for it.
Ma, it's only a step.
George, you catch it ethical with all public servants.
George, do what your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers. But while you live in this house, live wisely, thank you. Maybe Mrs. Webb used to call us at 7 in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee first.
I'll only be a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, you come in a minute out of the wet, but you know I can't ask you in.
Well, why not?
You know as well as I do, Group cannot see his bride on the wedding day, only in church.
Oh, come on now, that's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Now, Mr. Webb, you don't believe in any of that superstition stuff, now do you?
There's some good common sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George, and you don't want to be the first to fly and face custom.
Where is Emily, anyways?
She hasn't waked up yet. Haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
Yeah, no wonder. We were up packing and sewing all night. So I'll tell you what you can do. You sit down and have coffee with Mr. Webb, and I'll go see if Emily doesn't come down and surprise you. There's some bacon too, but don't be too long about it.
Well, George. How are you?
Oh, fine. I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what sort of sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, the girls' heads ought to be full of clothes or other things. Don't you think that's it?
Yes, never thought of that before.
Girls ought to be mighty nervous on her wedding day.
I wish a fellow could get married without all the marching up and down.
We've all felt that way about it, George. Man might smell at a wedding. All those great women shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot is tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Love?
Oh yes, yes. And don't get me wrong, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. And don't you forget that, George.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
I'd been to college and I'd spent some time to get settled down, but Mrs. Webb, she's about as old as Emily was. And age doesn't have much to do with it compared to other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Oh, was I going to say something? Well, George, I was thinking the other day of some advice my father gave me, George. Charles, he said, start out early showing who's boss. Give your wife an order, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn how to obey. If anything your wife does that irritates you, for conversation, anything, just get up and leave the house. That'll show me. Let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Mr. Webb,
So I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been happy ever since. Let that be a lesson to you, George. Don't take advice on personal matters. Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Well, Uncle Luke's never been much interested.
A book came into my office the other day on the vital systems of breeding chickens. I was thinking about starting that in the back, put an incubator in the cellar.
Charles, are you talking about the old incubator again? I thought you two would be talking about something worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to teach him something useful, I'll leave you alone with him.
George, Emily's got to come down and eat her breakfast. She sends her love, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, Myrtle, it seems you don't know about that other, older superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
A bridegroom shall not see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding. Or near it. Now, remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now, I have to interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all this began, this wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like this begin. You know how it is. You're 21 or 22, you make some decisions, then whoosh, you're 70. And that white-haired lady at your side, she's eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Well, George and Emily are going to show you the conversation that they had when they first realized that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do that, I want you to try and remember what it was like to have been very young. And particularly the days when you were first in love. When you were like a person sleepwalking. You didn't quite see the street that you were in or quite hear everything that was said to you. You're just a little bit crazy. Can you do that for me, please? Now, they'll be coming out of the high school at 3 o'clock. And George has just been elected president of the junior class. And as it's June, that means he'll be president of the senior class all next year. And Emily's just been elected secretary and treasurer. I don't have to tell you how important that is. Here they are, coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Louise. Goodbye. Oh, Ernestine. Ernestine, can you go off tonight and do lines? Isn't that sister the worst thing? Tell your mother you have to. Goodbye. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Oh, Emily. Emily, can I carry your books home for you?
Why, thank you. It isn't far.
Oh, excuse me a minute. Say, Bob, if I'd like to practice, go ahead and start anyways, and send her up some Long Island for me. Emily. Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
Well, you've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked, I might as well say it right out. Goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Why, Miss Corcoran? What is it?
I don't like the whole changes coming over me the past year. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I've got to tell the truth and shave the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, I'm sure you don't. I used to like you a lot. And I watched you as you did everything because we've been friends so long. And then you began spending all your time at baseball. And you never stopped to speak to anybody. Not even your own family you did, George. And it's a fact. You've got off conceited and stuck up, and all the girls say so. They may not say so to your face, but that's what they say about you behind your back. And it hurts me to hear them say it, but I've got to agree with them. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I can't be sorry I said it.
I'm glad you said it. I had no idea something like that was happening to me. I guess it's hard for a fellow not to have faults creep into his character.
I always expect a man to be perfect, but I think he ought to be.
I don't think it's possible to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father is. As far as I can tell, your father is. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
Well, the way I see it is the other way around, that men aren't naturally perfect, but girls are.
Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy as us girls to be perfect as men, because we girls are more nervous. And I'm sorry I said all about you. It's not true.
Emily.
Now, you see, it's not the truth at all, and I suddenly feel it isn't important anyway.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda or something before you go?
Well, thank you. I would.
Oh, hello, Sue. How are you? Hello, Miss Logan.
Well, hello, George. Hello, Emily. What can I get for you? Why, Emily Webb, what have you been crying about?
Oh, she just got awful scared. She almost got run over by a hardware store wagon. Everyone says Tom Hopkins drives like a crazy man.
Well, now, you take a drink of water, Emily. You look all shook up. I tell them, you gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street nowadays. Now, what can I get for you?
Oh, the strawberry phosphate. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily, have a strawberry ice cream soda with you. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, please, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are 125 horses here in Grover's Corners. This minute I'm talking to you. You know, the state inspector came in yesterday. They're bringing in some of those automobiles. I tell them, it's better to stay home. Why, I can remember when a dog could go to sleep all day on Main Street and nothing came along to disturb him. Here they are. Enjoy them. Yes, Mrs. Ella, what can I do for you?
They're so expensive.
No, don't you think of that, Emily. We're celebrating our election, and you know what else I'm celebrating?
No?
I'm celebrating that I have a friend who tells me everything that ought to be told to me.
George, please don't do that. I don't know what made me say it.
No, Emily, you stick to it. I'm glad you said what you did. And, Emily, I want to ask you a favor.
What?
Emily, when I go off to State Agriculture College next year, will you write me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. It certainly seems that being away for years, you kind of get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners would be so interesting after all. Grover's Corners is a very important place for me to belong. New Hampshire, but I think it's a very nice town.
Not a day would come that I wouldn't want to know everything that's happening here.
Well, I'll try to make my letters interesting.
You know, Emily, every time I meet a farmer, I ask them if they think it's important to go to state agriculture school to be a good farmer. And
Why, George?
some of them say it's even a waste of time. I mean, you can get all that stuff out of pamphlets the government sends out anyways, and my uncle is getting pretty old. He's going to need me to take him to his farm tomorrow, if I could.
Why?
being away for that long in other places and meeting other people. Gosh, if anything like that can happen, I don't want to go away. Emily, I feel you're as good as friends as I've got. I don't need to go to new places and meet new people.
But George, maybe it's very important for you to go and learn all that about cattle judging and soils and those things. Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm glad you talked to me about that fault in my character. And, well, you were right, except for one thing. And it was that for a year, I wasn't noticing people. And, well, you, for instance, I always thought about you as one of the chief people I thought about. And I always made sure where you were sitting in the bleachers and who you were with. And for 3 days now, I've been trying to walk home with you. But something's always gotten in the way. Like yesterday, I was sitting over by the wall waiting for you, and you walked home with this corker in.
George, life's awful funny. How could I have known that?
Listen, Emily, I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to state agriculture school. I've decided that I'm going to tell Pa tonight. I feel that once you found someone who you're very fond of, I mean it's fond of you too, I feel that's just as important as colleges. Even more so. That's what I think.
I think it's awfully important too.
Emily, if I do improve and make a big change, would you, could you?
I am now. I always have been.
I guess it's a pretty important talk we've been having.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, wait just a minute and I'll walk you. Mr. Morgan, I'm going to have to run home and grab you the money to pay for this, but I'll only be a minute.
George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me
Yes,
you're...
yes, but I agree. Listen, here's my gold watch to keep until I get back.
Keep your watch, I'll trust you.
Only be 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George, not a day over. All over your shotgun, Emily?
Yes. Thank you, Miss Morgan. It was nothing.
I'm ready.
Now it's time to get on with the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said in the wedding. There are a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding, naturally, and especially not one in Grover's Corners, or they're awfully plain and short. In this wedding, I played minister. I think that gives me the right to say a few more things about it. The play gets awful serious from now on. But you see, some people say that marriage is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that is, but I can guess. It's like what Mrs. Gibbs said earlier. People were made to live 2 by 2. This is a good wedding, but people are so put together that even at a good wedding, there are a lot of confusion deep down in people's minds. And we thought that ought to be in our play too. But the hero isn't on the stage at all. We all know who that is. It's like what one of those European fellows said. Each child born into the world is nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. We've all seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now, and we all know she's interested in quantity, but I think she's interested in quality too. That's why I'm in the ministry. But we can't forget about all the other witnesses, the ancestors, millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2 also. Millions of them. Well, that's all my sermon. It ain't very long anyway.
she suddenly said, "I can't eat another mouthful." She put her head on the table and she cried. But I've got to say, there's something downright cruel about sending our girls off to marriage like this. I hope her girls have told her a thing or two. I know I couldn't say anything. I went to it blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong, and that's what's the matter. Here they come.
Hey, George! Look at him, fellas. He's scared to death. Now, George, don't go looking so innocent. We all know what you think. You old geezer. Don't disgrace the big team.
All right, that'll do. That's enough of that. There used to be an awful lot of that kind of thing in the old days. Roman later. We're more civilized now, or so they say. George, what's the matter?
Mom, I don't want to grow old. Why is everyone pushing me so?
Why, George, you wanted it.
No, Mom, listen.
No, George. You're a man now.
No, Mom, for the last time,
George!
listen to me.
If anyone should hear you, now stop. I'm ashamed of you.
Where's Emily?
George, you gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Mom. I'm getting married.
Let me catch my breath a minute.
Now, Mom, you say Thursday nights. Me and Emily are coming over every Thursday night for dinner. Come on now, get ready.
I've never felt so alone my whole life. And George over there, looking so, I hate him. I wish he were dead.
Emily, everything's gonna be all right.
Papa, I don't want to be married. Why can't I just stay just as I am?
You mustn't think that way, Emily.
There's got to be someplace we can go. I can help.
Emily, you shouldn't think that way. Everything's going to be all right.
George, will you come here a moment?
George is the best fine fellow in the world. George is a fine fellow. George, I'm giving you my daughter. Will you take care of her?
I want to. I want to try. Emily, I love you. And I need you.
Well, if you love me, you can help me. All I need is somebody to love me.
I will, Emily. Then we'll try.
Thanks forever. 2 years, forever and ever.
Everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine.
You may now be seated. You, George, take Emily as your wedded wife to happen to hold.
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
You, Emily, take this man, George, be your wedded husband, and haven't a whole.
Don't know when I've seen such a good wedding, but I always cry. I don't know why, but I always cry. I just love to see young people get married, don't you? Oh, isn't it lovely?
You may now kiss the bride. I've married over 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. And Mary's End, millions of them. The go-kart, the Sunday afternoon ride in the Ford, first rheumatism, grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times it's interesting. Well, let's have Mendelssohn's Wedding March.
Aren't they a lovely couple? Isn't this a lovely wedding? Oh, I'm sure they'll be happy. Like I always say, happiness, that's the key. The important thing is to be happy.
That's all the second act, friends. 10 minutes intermission. This time, 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers are coming into town on Fords. And everybody's locking their doors at night. Ain't been any burglars in town yet, but everybody's heard of them. But you'd be surprised to know that, overall, nothing much changes around here. It's certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. We're on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds. Often lots of sun, moon, and stars. And if you come up here on a nice day, you can see the rolling hills. Awful blue they are, what with Lake Sunapee and Lake Winnipesaukee. And way up, if you've got a glass, you can see the White Mountains and Mount Washington, where Conway and North Conway are. And Mountain Monadnock, our favorite mountain, right here, with all the towns around it. Jeffrey and East Jeffrey, Peterborough and Dublin. And there, way down, is Grover's Corners. It's awful nice up here. Come out here on a nice day and you see the mountain laurels and lilacs. And I often wonder why people would want to be buried in Woodland or Brooklyn when they could be buried right up here in New Hampshire. Over there are the oldest stones, 1670, 1680. Strong-minded people that came a long way to be independent. During the summer, folks walk around and laugh at the funny words on the tombstones. But I guess that doesn't do any harm. And genealogists come up from Boston, get paid by rich folk to track their ancestry, make sure they're daughters of the American Revolution or the Mayflower. I guess that doesn't do any harm either. And over there are the Civil War veterans with iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they'd never seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. The United States of America. The United States of America, and they lived and died about it. Well, over here in the more recent graves, here's our friend Mrs. Gibbs, and let me see. There's Simon Simpson, organist of the Congregational Church, and Mrs. Soames, who loved the wedding so. Remember? And many others. Oh, there's Wallace, editor Webster's boy. His appendix burst in a Boy Scout trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, an awful lot of sorrows kind of quieted down up here. People just wild with grief have taken their relatives up this hill to rest. We all know how it is. than time and sunny days and rainy days and snow. We're all happy because we know they're in a beautiful place and we're coming here when our fit's over. There are things that we know that we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal. We know it ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth. It ain't even stars. We all know in our bones that that something has to do with human beings. I mean, the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years, and yet you'd be surprised by how many people who lose hold of it. There's something eternal about every human being. You know, the dead don't stay interested in us living people for very long. They stay here and they lose hold of the ambitions they had and the pleasures they had, things they suffered, even the people they love. They slowly get weaned away from the earth, that's what I call it, weaned away, and the earth part of them burns out, burns away, and they slowly become indifferent to what's going on in Grover's Corners. They're waiting. They're waiting for something that they know is coming. They're waiting for something important and great. Don't you think they're waiting for the eternal part of them to come out clear? Some of the things that they're going to say maybe will hurt your feelings, but that's just the way it is. Mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and miser, all those terribly important things, they kind of grow pale around here. And what's left when your memory is gone and your identity, Mrs. Smith? Well, there are some living people. Here's our undertaker, Joe Stoddard, come down to supervise the new made grave. And here's Grover's Corners boy, who left town to go out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see. Do I know you?
I'm Sam Craig.
Oh, Sam Craig. Gracious sakes. Alive, of all people. I should have known you'd back for the funeral.
Yes, I've been away for over 12 years now, Joe. I'm in business out in Buffalo now. I was in the East when I got news of my cousin's death, so I thought I'd stop by. Remind me to see the old moment. You look well.
Yes, yes. Can't complain. Very sad our journey today, Samuel.
Yes.
Yes, I always say I hate to be supervising when a young person is taken. They're coming. They'll be here in a few minutes now. I had to come here early. My son's supervising at the home.
Well, this is all part of my car. I used to do chores for him after school. He had a little bag of.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarty here a number of years ago.
And why, this is my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she, of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost her 3 years ago. About this time, today's another pretty bad blow for him.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Do they pick their own verses much, Joe?
Not usual. Mostly the bereaved pick a verse.
Doesn't sound much like Mom Julia. Aren't many of those Hershey sisters left now? Now, I wanted to see my father and my mother's.
Oh, over there with the Craigses, Avenue F.
He was an organist at church, wasn't he? Drank a lot, we used to say.
No one was supposed to know about that. He'd seen a peck of trouble. He took his own life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Yes, hung himself in his attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. He chose his own epitaph, though.
Why, it's just notes of music. What does it mean?
Well, I wouldn't know. It was written up in the Boston papers at the time.
Joe, what did she die?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, didn't you hear? She had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. 'Twas her second, though. There's a little boy, about 4.
And the grave's gonna be over there?
Yes, there ain't much more room here among the Gibbses, so we're opening up a whole new section there, over by Avenue B. Now, if you excuse me,
Who is it, Julia?
My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
I declare, the road up here must have been awful muddy. What she died of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth? My, I forgot all about that. My, isn't life awful and wonderful?
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't it a lovely wedding? And I remember her reading the class poem and graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls that ever graduated from high school. I've heard Principal Wilkins say so, time after time. I told them on it at their new farm just before I died. Perfectly beautiful farm.
It's on the same road we lived on.
Yep, right smart farm.
Always like that. I was hoping they'd sing it out.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Miss Gibbs.
Hello, Gibbs.
Emily.
Hello. You training?
Yes. They'll be gone soon, dear. Just trust yourself.
Seems thousands and thousands of years since I...
Papa, remember that about like my favorite dance.
I wish I'd been here all this time. I don't like being here. How do you do, Mr. Simpson?
How do you do, Emily?
Gibbs, George and I are in that farm just best president you ever saw. We talked here all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and a great long cement here. We have to stop. We thought how it would be like us.
I did.
Don't you remember Mother Gibbs? The legacy? Why is it $350?
Yes. Yes, Emily.
Well, they have a certain market there. And they never overflow. And it never seems to go. Very nice. It's a lovely farm. But it won't be the same for George without me. Sort of shoved in little boxes, aren't they? I feel as though I was new to once 1,000 years ago. My boy spent the day at Mr. McCarty's. Mr. McCarty, my boy spent the day at his home. Is he? Yes, he loves it there. We have a Ford too, Mother Gibbs. Never gives me trouble. I don't drive though. Mother Gibbs, when is this feeling going? Of being one of them?
Oh, shh. Dear, just be patient.
I know. Look, they're going. They're finished. Look, Father Gibbs is bringing me some of my flowers. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Oh, Mother Gibbs, I never realized how troubled and how in the dark life prisons are. Look at him. I love him so. From morning to night, that's all they are. Troubled.
Cooler than it was.
Yes, that rain's cooled it off a little.
Those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they?
If it isn't a rain, it's a 3-day blow.
So Mother Gibbs, won't you go back into living? I feel it. I know it. Why, just then for a moment, I was thinking about and for a minute, I was there, and my baby was on my lap, as plain as day.
Yes, of course you can.
Then I can go back and live all those days over again. Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go back into living.
Yes, some try, but they soon come back here.
Emily?
Don't. It's not what you think it be.
But I won't live over that day. I'll choose a happy day anyway. I'll choose the day that I first knew I loved George. Why should that be painful?
You not only live it, but you watch yourself living it.
Yes.
And as you watch it, you see what they, down there, never see. You see the future. You know what's going to happen afterward.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason why you shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see that our life here is to forget all that and be ready for what's ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
But Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I had. It's all I know.
It isn't wise, Emily. Really, it isn't.
But I'll choose a happy day anyway.
No. Choose the least important day of your life. It will be important enough.
Then it can't be since I was married, since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. February 11th, 1899. A Tuesday. Do you want any special time of day?
Oh, I want the whole day.
Then we'll begin at dawn. Oh, and you remember, it had been snowing for several days. It had just stopped the night before, so they'd just begun clearing the road. The sun's coming up.
Why, there's Main Street. And there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore where he changed it. And there's the livery stable.
Yes, it's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
Oh, that's the town I knew as a little girl. And look, there's one old bike that used to be around their house. Oh, I'd forgotten that. Oh, I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes, your mother will be coming down shortly to make breakfast.
Will she?
Oh, and you remember, your father had been away for several days. He'd come back on the early morning train.
No.
Well, he'd been to his college to make a speech at Clinton in New York.
Why, there's Harry Nixon. And there's our policeman. But he's dead. He died.
Whoa. Morning, Howie. Let's see. Morning, Bill. You're early. Saving a party in our post town then. Got drunk, lay out in the snow drifter. I was in bed when I shook him.
Why, there's Joe Crowell.
Morning, Pop. Morning, Pop.
Children, Wally, Emily, time to get up.
Mama, I'm here. Oh, how young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young.
You can dress by the kitchen fire if you like, but hurry.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Newsom. Oh, it's cold.
Tell me what my morning, Mrs. Webb.
Think of it. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Mama, I can't find my red hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear, that's all. I laid out a special on the dresser there. If it were a snake, it would bite you.
Yes. Yes.
Morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, Bill. Get up early. Been back at my old college. Everything okay here?
Saved a Polish fella down by Polish town. Damn near froze to death he was.
We'll get it in the paper.
That's one nice.
Papa.
Good morning, Mother.
How'd it go, Charles?
Good. Told him a few things. Everything okay here?
Yeah. I can't think of anything that's happened. Been right cold. Harry Newsom says it's 10 below at his barn.
Colder than that in Hamilton. Students' ears are freezing off. And Christian. Any mistakes in the papers?
None that I noticed. Charles, don't forget, it's Emily's birthday. Did you remember to get her something?
Yes. Got it right here. Where's my birthday girl?
Don't interrupt your mom, Charles. You can see her at breakfast. She's blown up as it is. Hurry up, children. You'll be late to school. I can't bear it. They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to go? Good morning, Mama. Well, happy birthday to my girl, and many happy returns. There's some surprises on the kitchen table for you.
Oh, Mama, you shouldn't have.
But birthday or no birthday, I want you to eat your breakfast good and slow. I want you to grow up to be a good, strong girl. That and the blue papers from your Aunt Carrie, and I reckon you can guess where that postcard album came from. George Gibbs. He must have gotten up real early in the cold. Right nice of him.
Oh, George. I'd forgotten that.
Chew that bacon good and slow. Keep you warm on a cold day.
Oh, Mama, just look at me and know as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs. Well, he's dead too, Mama. His appendix burst on a camping trip to North Conway. He felt just terrible about it. But just for a moment now we're together. Just for a moment we're happy. Let's look at one another.
That and the yellow paper is something I found from your grandmother's thing. You're old enough, and I thought you'd like it.
And this is from you. It's wonderful, and this is exactly what I wanted. It's beautiful.
I'd hoped you'd like it. Hunt it all over. Your Aunt Nora said she couldn't find a Concord, so she sent it all the way to Boston. Wally has something for you, too. He made it in manual training class. He's pretty proud of it, so make sure you make a big fuss about it. Your father has something for you, too. I'm not sure what it is, but well, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. So all that was going on, and we never realized. Take me back, up the hill, to my grave. But first, wait, one more look. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grove's Corners. Mama and Papa. Goodbye, clocks ticking, and Mama's sunflowers, and food and hot coffee, and new iron dresses and hot baths and sleeping and waking up. Oh, world, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Do human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute?
No. The saints and the poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No. I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are. Just blind people.
Look, it's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Oh, Mr. Stimson, I should have listened to them.
Yes. Now you know. Now you know. That's what it was to be alive. To move about in a cloud of ignorance, trotting on the feelings of those about you. To spend and waste times, though you had 1,000,000 years. To always be at the mercy of one self-centered passion or another. That's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
Simon Stimson, that ain't the whole truth, and you know it. Look, Emily, look at that star. I forget its name. My boy Joel was a sailor, knew him all by name. He'd sit on the porch all evening. Yes, sir, wonderful.
The stars mighty good company.
Yes, tis.
It's one of them coming.
That's funny.
Tain't no time for them to be here.
Goodness sakes.
Mother Gibbs, it's George.
Shh, you're just dressed yourself.
It's George.
And my boy Joel, who knew the stars, he used to say it took 1,000,000 years for that speck of light to reach the earth. Doesn't seem like anybody could believe it, but that's what he used to say. 1,000,000 years.
Goodness sakes, that ain't no way to behave.
He ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs,
Yes, Emily?
they don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Most everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners. Only a few lights on. Shorty Hawkins down at the depot, who just watched the Albany train go by. late talking and delivery stages. It is flaring up. There are the stars, doing their old crisscross journey across the sky. Scholars haven't settled on the matter yet, but they seem to think that there are no living beings up there, just chalk or fire. Only this one's straining away. Straining away so bad that every 16 hours, everybody lies down to get a rest. 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. You get a good rest too. Good night.